You've tapped into abilities you didn't even know were there. Dormant powers, perhaps, that have surged to the surface as you've journeyed inward. Abilities that weren't quite so defined before, or at least weren't quite so strong. These abilities emerged organically, quietly, as a byproduct of something much bigger taking root inside you. And if you're watching this video, say chances are you possess at least 3 of the 5 abilities we're about to unpack. You just never quite grasped that not everyone shares them. You may have figured everyone perceived the world the way you do now. They simply don't. This is something Eckhart Tolle understood with crystal clarity from his own journey. The spiritual awakening isn't just about tweaking how you view the world. It fundamentally changes what you can do. It's like upgrading your internal operating system in ways most people rarely discuss, either because they lack the words to explain it, or because they fear sounding, well, a little out there. Today, we're going to uncover 5 distinct abilities that blossom during the awakening process. Abilities you likely already possess, without even realizing it. Abilities that may have puzzled you, even frightened you, or left you feeling like an outsider. Abilities that might have made you wonder if something was wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. Something is profoundly right. If you've ever pondered why you seem to pick up on subtleties others miss, why you feel emotions others seem oblivious to, why you know things you couldn't possibly know logically, this video is going to illuminate everything, and it's going to validate experiences you may have been keeping under wraps for a long time. So, let's dive in, starting with the first skill to unlock, enhanced intuition. Before we go any further, it's crucial you understand something. This isn't about some mystical, supernatural, psychic ability. This is about a very real upgrade in how your brain processes information. A system-wide enhancement, experienced by almost everyone who undergoes a genuine spiritual awakening. Here's what unfolds. When you awaken spiritually, according to Tolle, you begin to detach from complete identification with your thoughts. You cultivate what he calls the observer within. That part of you that can witness your own thought stream without getting swept away by it. Prior to awakening, most people are their thoughts. After awakening begins, you can perceive your thoughts as objects. And when this shift occurs, something truly remarkable happens in your perception of everything else. You start perceiving information that was always there, but that your chattering mind was filtering out. Consider the sheer volume of noise in the average human mind. Constant inner commentary, unending evaluation, perpetual worry about the future, non-stop replays of the past. All that mental static acts like interference on a radio signal, drowning out the subtle cues that are constantly being broadcast. When the static subsides, even a little, you begin to hear those signals with clarity. What kind of signals? Subtle cues in people's body language that betray their true feelings. Micro-expressions flitting across their faces in a fraction of a second. Expressions they don't even know they're making. Tones of voice that convey far more than mere words ever could. Energy shifts within a room that you can feel the instant you walk in, but can't quite articulate to anyone else. Your intuition isn't magic. It's your brain finally having the breathing room to process all the data it was previously too distracted to notice. It's your nervous system finally tuned finely enough to detect subtle patterns that were always there, hiding in plain sight. Research corroborates this. Studies reveal that individuals who meditate regularly, who cultivate presence in the manner Tolle advocates, exhibit measurably improved intuitive accuracy. Their brains become more adept at processing information below the threshold of conscious awareness. They make sharper decisions. Without necessarily knowing how they know what they know, pause and consider this for a moment. Have you ever just known something was amiss, before you had any logical foundation to know it? Perhaps you entered a situation and immediately sensed that something was off, even though everything appeared fine on the surface. Maybe you met someone for the first time and instinctively knew whether you could trust them, long before they had the chance to prove or disprove that feeling. Or perhaps you thought of someone you hadn't thought of in years, and then they called or texted you that very day. This isn't mere coincidence. This isn't your imagination running amok. This is your enhanced intuition in action, And if you've been experiencing this with increasing frequency lately, it's a telltale sign that your awakening is deepening. But here's what many people don't realize about this ability. It can feel like a weight, a burden. If you don't grasp what's happening, you might begin to distrust your own instincts. You might fear you're becoming paranoid, imagining threats where none exist. You might suspect you're conjuring things up, fabricating patterns that are not there. You might even try to suppress these intuitive flashes because they clash with what your logical mind wants to believe. Don't make that mistake. Your intuition is revealing the truth to you. Learn to trust it, even when it makes you uncomfortable. The second ability is profound empathy. This one is both a tremendous gift and a significant challenge. And if you've developed it, you already know exactly what I mean. When you awaken, the walls between you and other people begin to dissolve. Not literally, of course, but energetically, emotionally. The feeling of separation that most people experience, the sense of being entirely confined within their own skin, that feeling begins to diminish. And in its place arises a profound sense of connection. This signifies that you start to feel what others feel, as if their emotions were your own, not merely as an intellectual concept, but as a direct experience. You walk into a room and instantly sense the prevailing mood before anyone utters a word. You sit next to someone who is silently suffering, perhaps someone you've never encountered before, and you feel a heaviness in your chest that defies explanation. You watch the news and feel physically impacted by stories of pain and injustice happening to people you'll never meet on the other side of the world. This transpires because awakening is fundamentally about recognizing your interconnection with all of life. Tolle describes this as the transition from ego consciousness to universal consciousness. When you cease to be so entrenched in your separate self, when you pierce through the illusion that you are a completely isolated entity, you naturally become more attuned to the whole. The boundaries become more permeable. Research has validated what awakened individuals have known for centuries. Psychological studies demonstrate that spiritual awakening is associated with a significant surge in empathy and compassion. Brain imaging studies illustrate changes in brain regions linked to emotional processing and perspective-taking. The boundaries between your emotional experience and those of others genuinely become more fluid. It's like the emotional atmosphere around you is subtly shifting, blending into your own internal landscape. Now, this ability is incredibly valuable. It makes you a better friend, a better partner, a better parent, a better leader. People feel seen and understood in your presence, often without you saying a word. You can help others in ways that those who lack this sensitivity simply cannot. You can sense what someone needs before they even ask for it. You can meet people where they really are, not where they pretend to be. But it also comes with a real cost. If you don't learn to manage it properly, you might find yourself exhausted after social interactions, even pleasant ones. You might absorb negativity from people without realizing you're doing it, and then wonder why you feel so drained. You might struggle to distinguish between your own authentic emotions and emotions you've picked up from others, leading to confusion about what you actually feel. You might feel overwhelmed in crowded places, where dozens of emotional energies are mixing together, making malls and airports and concerts almost unbearable. It's like being in a room full of radio signals all clashing at once. If this sounds familiar, I want you to hear something clearly. You are not weak. You are not too sensitive, and you are not being dramatic. You've developed a real ability. But like any powerful ability, it requires learning how to use it without it draining you. Think of it like a muscle. You have to learn to control it. The key, as Eckhart Tolle teaches again and again, is presence. When you remain anchored in the present moment, in the awareness of your own being, you can feel the emotions of others without losing yourself in them. You become like a clear window that light passes through, rather than a sponge that absorbs everything it touches. The emotions move through you without sticking. This takes practice. It takes conscious effort to stay rooted in your own presence while remaining open to others, but it is learnable. and once you learn it, your empathy becomes a superpower rather than a source of suffering. The third skill to unlock is intensified sensory perception. This one might surprise you because it seems so physical. But spiritual awakening doesn't just affect your inner psychological experience. It literally changes how you perceive the external physical world around you. Colors may appear more vivid than they used to. You might notice details in nature that you never saw before. The intricate patterns in a single leaf. The way light plays on water, creating endless shifting patterns. The subtle gradations in the sky as the sun moves across it. Sounds might seem sharper, more textured, more layered with meaning. Tastes and smells might become more intense, more alive, more capable of transporting you, like tasting your favorite comfort food for the very first time, again. This happens because, as Tolle explains repeatedly, when you are no longer lost in thought, you are actually present to experience life as it is. Most people go through their entire days in a mental fog, thinking about the past, or worrying about the future, planning, or evaluating, or judging, never truly experiencing the richness of the present moment. They look at a sunset and see a postcard they've seen 1,000 times before. They taste their food without really tasting it. They hear music while their mind is somewhere else entirely. When you awaken, even partially, the fog begins to clear, and suddenly you realize how much you were missing. The world has always been this beautiful, this alive, this full of stunning detail. You just couldn't see it, because your attention was trapped inside your head, recycling the same thoughts over and over. It's like finally taking off a pair of dirty glasses you didn't even realize you were wearing. This heightened perception is exactly what Tolle was describing when he talked about the morning after his profound awakening experience. He wrote about looking at the light coming through the curtain and realizing for the first time that it was love itself. Not metaphorically. He experienced it directly. The light had always been there, of course, but he had never truly seen it. Until that moment when his mind finally stopped. It was like seeing the world in high definition for the very first time. If you've experienced this kind of thing, if you've had moments where ordinary things suddenly seemed extraordinary, where the world appeared more real, more vivid, more present than it ever had before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And you might have wondered if something strange was happening to you. Something is happening to you, but it's not strange. It's the opposite of strange. It's finally becoming normal. It's finally waking up to how things actually are. Your senses are waking up along with your consciousness, but there is more to come. And this is where it gets really interesting. The fourth skill to unlock is the capacity to sense truth and deception. This ability often makes spiritually awakened people uncomfortable because it can feel almost invasive. You start to see through people, not in a judgmental and critical way, but in a clear, almost effortless way that you can't turn off. You can tell when someone is being authentic and when they're wearing a mask. You can sense when words and intentions don't match. You can feel when someone is lying, even when you can't prove it with evidence. And even when you wish you couldn't feel it. It's like developing an internal lie detector. This happens because awakening strips away your own layers of self-deception. When you do the work of becoming conscious, you have to face your own illusions. You have to see your own patterns of denial, your own defensive mechanisms, your own comfortable lies. And as you become more honest with yourself, as you stop believing your own stories and justifications, you naturally become better at recognizing dishonesty in others. Think about it this way. A person who habitually lies to themselves is easy to deceive. Their perception is already distorted by their own inauthenticity. They see what they want to see, believe what is convenient to believe. But a person who has done the hard work of seeing themselves clearly, who has stopped running from uncomfortable truths about their own nature, develops a kind of clarity that simply cannot be fooled in the same way. It's like sharpening a knife. The sharper you get, the cleaner the cut. This ability can be deeply unsettling, especially at first. You might find yourself in conversations where you clearly perceive what the other person is hiding, what they're really afraid of, what they actually want, even when they themselves are not fully aware of it. You might see through social games that you used to participate in without questioning. You might become intolerant of small talk and superficiality because you crave authentic connection and can taste when something is fake. It's like trying to enjoy a gourmet meal after having acquired a taste for high-quality ingredients. Some people will be threatened by this. They will sense, even unconsciously, that you see too much, that they can't hide from you the way they hide from others. And they will distance themselves. They will become uncomfortable around you, without being able to explain why. This is not your fault. It's simply the natural result of two people operating at very different levels of consciousness. But others will be drawn to you, precisely because they want to be seen. They are tired of wearing masks all day. They are exhausted by constantly performing a version of themselves that isn't even real. They crave someone who can meet them in their truth. These are your people. These are the connections worth cultivating. Now we come to the fifth, and perhaps most profound ability of all. The fifth ability is the emergence of the observer, what Eckhart Tolle calls being the watcher or the witness. This isn't just another ability alongside the others. It's the foundation that makes all the other abilities possible. It's a fundamental shift in your relationship to your own mind, and it changes absolutely everything. Before the spiritual awakening, most people are completely identified with their thoughts. When a thought arises, they don't experience it as a thought, as a mental event that comes and goes. They experience it as reality. They believe it automatically. They react to it immediately. They have no distance from it whatsoever. They are the thought. It's like being completely absorbed in a movie. You forget it's not real. After the spiritual awakening begins, something radically different starts to happen. You start to notice a space between you and your thoughts. You start to observe them arising, rather than being swept away by them. You start to recognize, and not just intellectually, but experientially, that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness into you in which thoughts appear and disappear. You are the screen, not the movie playing on it. Eckhart Tolle describes this as the most important quote he ever spoke. To realize that you are not your thoughts is when you begin to awaken spiritually. This ability is transformative because it gives you a freedom you never had before. When you can observe a thought without automatically believing it, you can choose whether to engage with it. When you can watch an emotion arising without immediately acting on it, you gain the power to respond wisely, rather than react compulsively. When you can see your patterns and conditioning as objects in awareness, rather than as who you fundamentally are, you can finally begin to change them. This is why awakened people often seem calmer in crisis situations. It's not that they don't feel stress or fear. Of course they do. They are still human. But they have a place to stand that is not caught up in the stress and fear. They can observe the storm from a place that is not inside the storm. They are not the weather. They are the sky. If you've started to notice this in yourself, if you've begun to experience moments of watching your own mind rather than being completely lost in it, you've developed the most significant ability of all. This is the doorway to everything else. This is the foundation of lasting inner peace. Now, I want to address something important. If you've recognized yourself in 3 or more of these abilities, you might be feeling both validated and overwhelmed. Validated, because finally someone is naming experiences you've had but couldn't explain to anyone. Overwhelmed, because having these abilities often comes with challenges that absolutely no one prepared you for. You might feel like you don't fit in anywhere anymore. You might feel lonely, even in the middle of a crowd. You might feel like you're losing your mind some days, especially when you perceive things that no one around you seems to notice. You might wonder if you're becoming arrogant by thinking you've developed special abilities. Let me address that last point directly and clearly. Recognizing that you've developed these abilities is not arrogance, it's accuracy. The spiritual awakening is real. The changes it brings are real and measurable. Denying them doesn't make you humble. It just makes you confused. At the same time, and this is equally important, these abilities do not make you better than anyone else. They simply mean you're at a different point in your journey. Everyone awakens eventually. Everyone develops these capacities in time. You're not special in the sense of being superior. You're simply awake in ways that some others are not. Yet. The key word is yet. The appropriate response is not pride, but responsibility. These abilities are tools for service, not badges for your ego to collect. Use them to help others. Use them to ease suffering when you can. Use them to bring more clarity and more light into the world. If this video has helped you understand something important about yourself, if it's given you language for experiences you couldn't explain before, consider showing your support through super thanks. It helps me continue creating content for this awakening community, and every contribution tells me that this message matters to you and to others like you. Now let me give you some practical guidance for developing and refining these abilities further. First, practice presence daily, without exception. All 5 of these abilities depend on your capacity to be present. The more you can anchor yourself in the now, the stronger and clearer these abilities become. Even 5 minutes of conscious breathing each day makes a measurable difference. 10 minutes is better, but consistency matters more than duration. Second, learn to ground yourself regularly. When you have heightened sensitivity, grounding becomes absolutely essential for your well-being. Spend time in nature whenever possible. Feel your feet on the earth. Touch trees. Walk barefoot on grass. These simple practices help you stay stable when your expanded perception might otherwise overwhelm you. Third, set energetic boundaries consciously. Just because you can feel everything doesn't mean you have to take everything on. Learn to observe without absorbing, feel without drowning, be present to others without losing yourself. This is a skill that develops with practice. It doesn't come automatically. Fourth, find your people actively. You need connections with others who understand what you're going through. Isolation is genuinely dangerous for awakened people. Seek out communities, whether in person or online, where you can share your experiences without being judged or misunderstood or told you're crazy. Fifth, stay humble and curious, always. The spiritual awakening process is never complete. There's always more to learn, more to see, more to become. The moment you think you've fully arrived, you've stopped growing. Keep what Zen calls a beginner's mind. These 5 abilities are not the end of your journey. They're signs that the journey has truly begun. They're confirmation that something real and significant is happening inside you. They're gifts that come with responsibility. You're not imagining things. You really are perceiving more than you used to. You really are feeling more than most people around you seem to feel. You really are seeing through illusions that once fooled you completely. This is your spiritual awakening. These are your abilities, and now you finally have words for what is happening. Tell me in the comments, which of these 5 abilities have you noticed developing in yourself? Which one surprised you the most when you heard it described? I read every single comment, and I genuinely want to hear about your experience. You are not alone in this. There are more of us than you might think, and we are finding each other, one video at a time, one comment at a time, one authentic connection at a time. Your abilities are not a burden. They are exactly what this world needs right now. Use them well. The spiritual awakening continues. And so does the unfolding of who you really are. But before you go, I want to share one more insight that ties everything together, something that took me years to understand, and that I wish someone had told me when I was first discovering these abilities in myself. These 5 abilities are not separate gifts. They are different expressions of the same underlying shift in consciousness. They are all aspects of what happens when you stop being completely identified with the thinking mind. and begin to recognize yourself as awareness itself. As Eckhart Tolle says, it is about recognizing the stillness within, when you become the observer within of your thoughts, rather than being lost in them. Your perception naturally expands in all directions at once. You become more intuitive because you are no longer filtering everything through conceptual thinking. You become more empathic because the illusion of separation is dissolving. Your senses become heightened because you are actually present to experience them fully. You can sense truth and deception because you have stopped deceiving yourself. And the observer within itself becomes stronger because you are exercising that muscle every single day. This is why the spiritual awakening is so transformative. It does not just add a few new abilities to your existing personality. It transforms the very foundation of how you experience existence. It changes everything from the ground up. Some people resist this transformation because they are afraid of losing themselves. They think that if they stop identifying with their thoughts, their opinions, their personality traits, their life story, they will somehow cease to exist. But the opposite is true. What dies is only the false self, the constructed identity that was never really you in the first place. What remains is something far more vast, far more alive, far more real than anything the ego could ever be. You are not becoming someone else. You are finally becoming yourself, your true self, the self that was here before all the conditioning, before all the beliefs, before all the stories. The self that will be here long after all of that has dissolved. These abilities are your birthright. They are not special powers reserved for a chosen few. They are the natural capacities of a human being who is awake to their true nature. The only reason they seem rare is because so few people are willing to do the inner work required to activate them. Most people would rather stay asleep, because waking up requires facing everything they have been avoiding. But you are not most people. The fact that you are here, watching this video, recognizing yourself in these descriptions, proves that something in you has already chosen the path of the spiritual awakening. Something in you has already said yes to the transformation that is underway. Trust that yes. Follow it wherever it leads. Let it guide you deeper into presence, deeper into truth, deeper into the mystery of who you really are. Your abilities will continue to develop as your spiritual awakening deepens. There is no end point, no final destination where you have fully arrived. There is only the ongoing journey of becoming more and more conscious, more and more present, more and more aligned with the intelligence that underlies all of existence. Walk this path with courage. Walk it with patience. Walk it with gratitude for the unfolding miracle that you are.